All right, welcome to the agenda on Dominion Brokers Group this morning. I am Chike Ubogu. Well, on the agenda this morning, we'll be talking about security issues here, and also we'll be talking about the oil and gas, the sector this morning. But let's start with security matters. As you all know, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, and the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, have vowed to end the killings in Benue State. The IGP commiserated with the members of the community and reassured them of the Nigerian Police Force's commitment to further augment the available security emplacement in the state. Egbetokun directed the immediate deployment of additional tactical teams and assets and assigned the Deputy Inspector General of Police in charge of the Department of Operations to take charge and oversee the operations aimed at restoring peace to Benue. On his part, General Christopher Musa.
It is not just an attack on the people of Benue State. It's an attack on the entire nation. And we are not going to accept it. The people of this community are not alone. We are with them. The entire Nigerian communities are with them.
We're here to ensure that we address such. From now, I'll be going to see my commanders, and we have to change our strategy. We want to look inward and see how we can address it. But like we mentioned, we cannot do it alone without the community, without the state. We need everybody to be part of it. We understand that even before now, we used to have, even within us, people that compromise and give information, because going around, you see the way some of the burnings were made, they were targeted, and which means they had insiders.
All right, on his part, you heard the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, ordering field commanders from Benue and Nasarawa states to review their operational strategies and deal decisively with any act of terrorism in Benue. Musa, who toured the scenes of the attack in Yelwata, said the persistent attacks were one too many that must be nipped in the bud to restore peace. He further urged the communities to engage troops with mutual trust to deal decisively with criminals. Right, well, bandits suspected to be armed herders last Friday attacked the community, leading to the death of at least 100 residents and the displacement of over 3,000 others. Well, joining me this morning to discuss this and many other issues is our in-house analyst and commentator, yes, Charles Dolapo Anjorin. Good morning. It's good to have you on the agenda.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Chike. I'm delighted to be here this morning.
Yes, we're looking at security matters. Yes, Mr. President is expected to be in Benue State today. We're still coming to the fanfare that was, well, a letter was released with, if it is true, going by what we saw yesterday from the Benue State government, well, we'll still discuss that if it was a time for mourning or a time for fanfare. However, there's a modus operandi by the security chiefs, the military and the police, to ensure that this is nipped in the bud. Well, it's not about making categorical statements, but the question is, how do we end, not to alleviate it, but to eradicate banditry, cattle rustling in the northeast? Or North Central, I beg your pardon.
Yeah, thank you very much. The statements that the defense security chiefs made is just reactive statement. You know, it's not a preventive statement. These killings have been going on for years now. Benue State was created in 1976, and between 1976 up till now, you know, we've had thousands of dead people, you know, who has died because of banditry, farmers-herders clash. About 1,043 deaths has been recorded since 2023. According to Benue Non-Governmental Organization Network, we have 150,000 people displaced already. And, you also have 6,500 people, whose homes have been burned, that have been internally displaced, in their own state, in their own country. These numbers are wartime figures, and we are not at war. Even the escalation between Iran and Israel, where they are using hypersonic missiles and all manner of ICBM ballistics to attack one another, they've not recorded this amount of deaths in the last 3 or 4 days. So these are wartime figures. We are not at war with any country. So this is an aberration, and this crisis has been a lingering one. You have some people saying that it has a religious undertone, it has an ethnic undertone. These figures, basically, they are just it's genocidal, and to actually nip this in the bud, I think that about 500 to 1,000, youths in this state should be legally armed. If they are legally armed, I can give you a guarantee that there will be a stop to this.
You're talking about self-defense.
Yes,
right?
self-defense.
We'll be coming to that because the governor of Benue State, Reverend Father Hyacinth Alia, also commented on the issue of self-defense, which he condemned, but we'll get there. We'll get to that part of the discussion. However, you said this has been a perennial
yes, a
crisis.
recurring decimal.
Yes. Now, you've come to say that many people have said it might have a religious undertone and all that. Well, in a related development, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, has given possible reasons for the repeated violent attacks in Benue State. While speaking during a meeting with traditional rulers in Makurdi, the state capital, the army chief said he observed 3 basic things. And what are these 3 basic things? Let's get to listen to him.
2 basic things, or 3 basic things. One, issue of land, indigene, non-indigene, critical, which is political. That is supposed to be sorted out politically. Secondly, the issue of the movement of animals. I have told people over time that when they say farmer herders clash means 2 things are moving. But if the farm is standing and an animal comes in, it's not a clash. It's somebody entering somebody's property. So we must find solutions to which means if the animals don't move, we don't have issues. Now again, because of that, we have issues of rustling of animals. Which means if we don't even rustle animals again that are moving, again, there won't be most of this problem happening. So those are the 3 critical aspects that we must be able to address clearly. And like I said, most of it is political solution that needs to come in.
All right, you listened to the Chief of Defense Staff there, Dolapo. He talked about the 3 major issues that may have caused this perennial or recurring violence. And he said something pertinent. He said, we talking about farmer herders clashes. And there's no clash when animals invade a farm. It's not a clash. And then if animals don't move, we don't have these clashes. Okay, so are you in tandem with what the Chief of Defense Staff is saying? Or do you think the army is trying to absolve itself from the whole crisis?
Well, I don't quite agree with him. Because when we talk about farmers' herders clashes, it means that the herders, who are nomadic in lifestyle, are always leading their cattle, down south because of climate changes in the northern hemisphere and, lack of adequate rainfall and, the desertification that is happening in the northern hemisphere. So they are trying to, lead their animals to the southern hemisphere where you have the elixir of rainfall, where you have the elixir of, green pasture, and fodders that can cater for the well-being of their herds. So leading them to the southern hemisphere, it means they are working into people's farms. Don't forget, Benue State is the food basket of the nation. Food basket of the nation, for God's sake. And when these animals, stray, or maybe I would put it like intentionally, it's an intentional act, from these herders, they allow the animals to destroy, cultivated crops, So you kind of like give back to, farmers versus herders. So they will clash. That's just a simple logic. So compared to what the Chief of Defense Staff is saying, that when animals enter into the farm, is no more a farmer herder.
Maybe let's look at it let's put it in a perspective.
Okay.
Well, what he meant was that when we say farmers herders clash, is it really a clash? Invasion of farms by herders.
Yes, the invasion.
Are they clashing with farmers?
The invasion.
They're not clashing. Like what is happening in Benue State, there was no clash. There was a genocide.
Yeah, a genocide. See, this is when you look at the scale of horror that has occurred in over the years. It's in stages. Now you just talk about invasion. It leads to clashes. So now, with the invasion and the clashes, the people that has invaded someone else's farm, what ethnic group are they from? What religious, what is their religion? And the other side, who is aggrieved, who is the victim? What's their own religion? What's their own ethnicity? So now, it now moves to genocide. An ethnic fight, a religious fight, trying to claim superiority over another ethnicity and over a religion. So the horror of this horror we are talking about is actually in scale. So it is not a one size fit-all term, that the Chief of Defense Staff is trying to explain in that video. So I believe that farmer herders clashes, because if there is no invasion, there will not be clashes. If there's no invasion and clashing, there will not be ethnic cleansing and ethnic genocide.
Well, what happened in Benue State, would you call it a clash or else an invasion?
See, it has graduated from invasion to clash, now to ethnic cleansing, or you can call it genocide. Let us call the truth. Let us call a spade and not an agricultural tool. That is exactly what is happening in Benue State.
All right, Benue State Governor, Reverend Father Hyacinth Alia, sparked controversy with his stance against self-defense amid rising insecurity in the state. The governor's remarks, made during a recent public address, have drawn sharp reactions from residents and commentators who argue that the stance undermines the survival instincts of communities under constant threat. Let's get to listen to the governor of Benue State, Governor Hyacinth Alia.
And I think that would make some very good common sense. But where you have people who just decide to wake up because of sentiments and emotions that are attached, to what is happening with us and within us, I think we'll be rendering ourselves a bit more vulnerable. So I wouldn't advocate for self-defense. I would encourage us all to keep calling for community policing, because it's the only way, it's the only people from within the state and the local government who would understand what is going on with them. I just come to think of it, before now, here in the States.
Governor Hyacinth Alia there talking about self-defense and how it is important to have state policing or community policing to curb this instead of people defending themselves. Alia raised critical questions about the balance between state-led security and community survival strategies. With public trust eroding, the governor faces mounting pressure to clarify his position and deliver concrete solutions to protect his people. Now, the governor is saying, oh, let's go for community policing instead of self-defense. You just talked about the youths being armed.
Yes, one of the
Don't
one
you
of
think
the
that
ways
would be so chaotic?
You can prevent.
Remember,
put
a fragile entity like us, divided along ethnic and religious lines, and then you arm the youths of Benue State. That should be chaotic, don't you think so?
See, arming them legally, it's just for a short-term fix. While the government work.
How do you arm them legally?
Yeah, see, you have the National Assembly, you have the State Assembly.
Okay, so there's a process. So before that process ends,
see,
this is genocide might occur. Why not put in place community policing, which is very easy to, the process is not
if
wrong.
we want to institute community policing or state police, we are talking about full-scale restructuring, which will take months of discussion, which will take months of town hall meetings. So we are talking about not a short period of time. This is a discussion that will be heard over. You cannot even put a time frame to it or a time scale to it. But in the short-term fix, how are we going to nip these killings in the bud? It is to arm this guy legally. See, there was once a time in this country where a doctrine of necessity was invoked so that a vice president will become an acting president. See, what is happening in Benue State, is state of emergency. People's lives needs to be protected at all costs. 1,043 lives is not a joke. The people who are dead, they are not dogs. They are not dogs. They are not chickens. This is human beings with full destiny. So what are we saying here? Arm them legally in the short term while we try to find solutions by, devolving security from the exclusive list of the federal government to the to state governments.
But let me ask, if you're saying the youths of Benue should be armed, then what then happens to those who are perpetrating this evil? Is it that they are above the law? Why not nip this, put an end to the activities? Why not put an end to the activities of these marauders? Before you start thinking of arming the youth.
Mr. Chike, there is a passage in the Holy Writ that says, before you enter the house of a strong man, you must first of all bind the strong man before you can overcome his household. Now, in this context,
are you saying the government cannot bind and cast?
See, it is so obvious that we have ineffective policing at the moment.
No, basically, are you saying that the government cannot bind and cast?
They cannot bind and cast. It is very, very obvious. Is it not obvious that the policing system, is weak? The structural system of our security network is weak. See, we are due for state police 65 years ago, 26 years ago, and even to date, the federal policing has been overwhelmed. See, okay, according to United Nations, United Nations, we are supposed to be having one policeman to 400 citizens. We only have 400,000 policemen in Nigeria, according to data. Now, what we have is one policeman to about 563 citizens. So this is below the United Nations benchmark. And at the moment, you find out that this killings has been a recurring decimal. I cannot even guarantee you that before the end of this show, we might even hear another breaking news that will scroll past our TV and say 200 people killed in fresh attacks in Benue State. So it is what we have come to.
But that might not be possible because Mr. President is going there today. And then we also have the security chiefs who have positioned themselves in Benue State. Maybe that might just scare the bandits or the marauders at this time.
Thank you very much. You have heavy military presence because the president is coming to town. And because of the heavy military presence, they are holding weapons. They are holding sophisticated weapons that they can use to, that can be deployed, to tackle these killings. Same thing goes for arming about 500 to 1,000 youths, when these marauders or these terrorists or bandits knows that, okay, there are 1,000 people on the ground who knows the community too well, and they are carrying ammunitions. See, they would dare not to attack. Even if they try to attack, they know that they will not be able to overpower them. It will scare them away. This has happened in so many states in the southeast. What's the name of this community in Anambra State? Ihiala local community.
Urumba local government.
Urumba local government. That is what they did. And there is no news of herdsmen attacking that community again. What are we saying?
All right. Well, we're still saying what we're saying, and then we keep saying what we're saying. Before we delve into some other security talking points, Mr. President will be visiting Benue State today. However, his visit to Benue State, should it be a visit of celebration or a visit of mourning? Because a letter leaked yesterday, and it's an invitation. It was addressed to leaders and registered support groups, notifying them of the visit of Mr. President, and telling them to mobilize, so mobilize massively to give a rousing welcome to our president. And then a public holiday was declared in Benue State because Mr. President was coming. But a public holiday was not declared after over 100 people were killed, were roasted. Is this some kind of eye service? Is it that the governor of the state is spitting on the graves of those who passed on? What is going on in Benue State? Shouldn't be a thing of joy, but a thing of sorrow, tears, and blood.
You see, they say that water flows from the head, to the feet. And what is actually happening now shows that all what APC and Mr. President is after is to score political points instead of, scoring points when it comes to governance. What should have happened in Benue State is supposed to be a solemn visit. For God's sake, the people that you swore to protect with the Constitution are dead. And the governor of Benue State is insulated from reality. Probably maybe because none of his family members, was part of the victim, was part of those that were killed, whose body was mangled, in that massacre. Maybe that is why he is trying to put up this eye service, erecting billboard, in honor of the president. For God's sake, it's supposed to be a time of sober reflection, not a time of political jubilation. With the leaked report that I read yesterday, it is giving a vibe of a political campaign. I saw videos of where,
civil servants were cutting bushes.
Bushes okay. that has been there, that has been left unattended to for months. But because the president is coming to town, you are trying to, put up. No. It is what is happening in Benue State, is very, very irresponsible.
Oh, Benue.
Irresponsible.
Oh, Benue. Benue bleeds.
That's the food basket of the nation, Mr. Chike. And you wonder why inflation rate is high.
All right. For Benue is part of the confluence states. Lokoja, Benue. There's where River Niger splits. And River Benue. Although the river in Benue seemed to be filled with blood instead of water. But what do? We only keep praying that the security architecture gets better.
I'm sorry, Mr. Sorry for cutting you short.
Right.
I need to also, put this in. Now, 65,000 farmers have been displaced. We are looking at a serious humanitarian crisis on our hands. if care is not taken. 65,000 farmers, they have been displaced.
Let's look at internal security. Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, says the porous nature of the nation's borders and the underfunding of the police are major threats to internal security. The minister said the Nigerian Immigration Service has been allocated 10 billion naira only to secure Nigeria's extensive 4,024 square kilometer border space, a figure he described as grossly insufficient. The minister warned that porous borders could worsen security threats, calling for a realistic approach to tackling the challenge. Let's get to listen to Olubunmi Ojo.
Clearly state this, and I do not want to be misquoted because I will give my answers with very strong facts. One, petrol.
And you have a police that depends on budget, capital release, and all these things, and you think we will be efficient. Sir, my brother Ben, I have utmost trust in your coordination as chairman of this council. We have an opportunity now to get it right. And also, before I leave, something is very important I must say. The attention that we are paying to cyber security, we are still living 20 years behind. You cannot continue to run a cyber security architecture on what's it called, an ad hoc arrangement. There must be.
Well, that's Olubunmi Ojo there talking about our internal security, though, well, sorry for that mix-up there. However, he talked about the amount expended for the immigration service, 10 billion naira in a year, just to secure the borders of Nigeria. And that is very paltry sum, considering the large expanse of land where they're meant to, and that's why some borders are porous. He dealt with the porosity of our borders. And when our borders are porous, we have these elements come into the country and then cause chaos. Who knows if those who caused the chaos in Benue State came through the porous borders? Who knows? We're just asking. So what do we do to secure our borders and tighten it up, to close that porosity?
You see, just like politics, when they say politics is local, security too is local. I will still go back to my earlier points. You see, state policing, we are long overdue for it. We need to begin to, have a critical discussion on how we are going to implement and enforce state policing. This is not the time to play politics anymore. It is not. Either we like it or not, the porous borders in Benue State, the porous borders in the southwest, the porous borders in the north, we are all paying for it. It's just a matter of time before Nigeria happens to everybody. We need to start having serious discussions, because for communities, they should be protected and defended, by local people who inhabit those places. They know the communities better. They know the hideouts. They know the borders better than anyone else. What is this manpower strength of the immigration service? I am not even sure. I am not even sure I can recount the specific numbers of borders that we have in Nigeria. Most of them are actually unmanned, and that is why you need state policing. You need local policing to fix these gaps. We need to start taking this seriously. Let people who inhabit these local places and communities take charge of their security. Let us define rules of engagement. There should be a limit to federal policing. It has shown that it has failed in effective policing. And that is why you see we are calling upon the military to come and, fill in the gap of this ineffective policing. We should stop speaking English. It is time to get to work. There are no two ways about it. Implement state policing. Implement a short-term fixed solution where youths of these affected communities will bear arms to protect themselves.
Are you calling for, you see, now you keep repeating this, are you calling for self-defense?
I am calling for self-defense.
As a people in the country?
Yes, because see, successive governments have failed to address these issues.
Do we have the maturity as a people to actually defend ourselves?
See, when we get to that river, we will cross it. That is why I said it's a short-term fixed solution. It's not long-term.
Okay, so now if you look at the architecture for, achieving a better secured country, do you think our security architecture at this moment understands the modus operandi when it comes to internal security? But when it comes to external security, you see our security personnel doing so well outside the shores of the country. But when it comes to internal security, it seems to be lacking there. Would you say it's a concept of a doctor cannot cure himself? Is that the concept?
You see, when you look at the security architecture of Nigeria, I think it was primarily built to protect the elites, the political elites. You look at it from the military coup to civilian dispensation. It was primarily built to protect, people who are at the apex of the ladder. Now, you cannot tell me that this is not failure of intelligence, that you would not even have the intelligence that there would be an attack that would claim the lives of 200 people. For God's sake, this massacre that we are talking about that happened on June 13, between June 13 and 14, they operated unimpeded for about 2 hours. And it was reported that they came through the river. That is a gap. It is lack of intelligence. The military checkpoints, the police checkpoints focused on mounting barricades on the road, whereby, neglecting rivers, neglecting water bodies that can also serve as a transportation means, of entering into those communities to carry out that heinous act. How about, using or deploying drones, aerial drones, to monitor and to gather intelligence, to gather movements, strange movements? Like I said, it's failure of intelligence. So, the security architecture, you cannot tell me, the president is coming to town today. I can bet that there will be surveillance drone in the air that cannot be detected. I can bet that riverbeds, water bodies would be secretly manned by security agents that are not even putting on official insignia of the government. So why can't we do this for citizens? You would notice that once the president leaves Benue State today, the presence of the military presence, will be doused a little bit, and life continues.
Life goes on.
Life goes on. That's why I said the security architecture is built to protect our political elites, VIPs.
Are you a VIP, Dolapo?
I'm not a VIP.
When would you become one? So
I don't
you'll be
know.
protected. Nigerians are supposed to be VIPs.
We are supposed to be VIPs in our own countries. But unfortunately, we are second-class citizens.
Second class?
Even third class.
Third class? Third class people still get jobs.
Okay, let's say failed class.
Now leaving security matters, let's delve into the oil and gas sector. Dangote Refinery and petroleum products depot owners have increased their ex-depot prices of premium motor spirit, also known as fuel, owing to the spike in global oil prices as Israel-Iran strikes entered day 5 on Tuesday. Data from petroleumprice.ng showed that Dangote Refinery's petrol price rose to 840 naira per litre from 825 naira per litre as of Monday. Also, Rain Oil's price surged to 900 naira per litre from 850 naira per litre. Similarly, Finefield and Mainland jerked their ex-depot prices to 930 naira per litre and 920 naira per litre, respectively, adding 51 and 63 naira there. Other prices showed that Sigmund was selling at 920 naira per litre. Matrix Warri's price was 910 naira per litre. Nipco increased to 895 naira per litre from 827 naira last week, while Aito sold petrol at the rate of 840 naira per litre. The development comes as crude oil prices maintained gains on Tuesday, as Brent and West Texas intermediate futures stood at $75.63 and $74.03 per barrel, according to oilprice.com. Reacting, the national president of the Petroleum Products Retail Outlets Owners Association of Nigeria, Bailey Gillis Harry, said the impact of global oil prices generally affects the price of PMS or any component of petroleum refined products. Let's get to listen to Billy Harry this morning.
Let me clearly state this, and I do not want to be misquoted because I will give my answers with very strong facts. One, Petron, yes, is one of the greatest supporters of the Nigerian internal in-country refining campaign. And we did that with all good intention as a patriotic organization to support the government and the industry leaders, especially NNPC, to encourage them to complete that rehabilitation and revamping process. And we did visit several times. And each time we visited, I have videos. I have videos of our visits, videos of our activities that have never been published. And we can bring those videos out at any time. So we have facts. We were not supporting NNPCs doing the refinery, that working just blind. In my association, we have very senior officers in the industry, in the private and the public industry, that are part of the leadership of Petron. And therefore, we are very well informed. We are not engineers, but we do have engineers who have worked and who know the process. And when we ask questions, we ask technically sound questions, and we answer that. And almost all of those are on videos. And I can share that with you. For the products that we were lifting in NNPC, especially in Port Harcourt Refinery, most of them were DPK and AGO. PMS was lifted by NNPC to NNPC trucks to NNPC stations. And of course, we did buy from NNPC stations in our cars, but we did not buy any commercial PMS from NNPC while the process of doing distributions from that depot was going on. And we made that very clear. There was no time we had said that we are picking PMS from the depot. We were picking PMS from NNPC through the private depots that are partnering with them. And
all right, well, you'll be listening to the Petron president, that's Billy Harry. However, it's a long one, a long interview. Subsequently, we'll just get to air that. Meanwhile, the Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria's Festus Osifo, that's the president of that association, claimed that oil marketers are exploiting Nigerians through inflated petroleum prices. According to him, the current petroleum pump price should be between 700 and 750 naira per litre. Well, Dolapo, a quick one there. Well, there's an excuse now. There's an increase in pump price, in petroleum, ex-depot price, then pump price, due to the Israel-Iran war, the crisis now between Israel and Iran. Prices of crude in the international market has soared. And then we are in a country where we have crude oil, we have refineries. We've said it on this program that our refineries don't even refine petroleum products. And that's what the Petron president is saying. You know, he's just reiterating that statement now, clearing the air. that all the only thing they pick up from the Port Harcourt and other refineries are only DPK, that's kerosene, and then AGO, which is diesel at this moment. So what is the fate of Nigeria? Especially, there are two things. Our budget was benchmarked at $75 per barrel. If it soars beyond this, will we be able to fund our budget? Secondly, we have this in our hands now. Prices of petroleum prices will start soaring, and Nigerians will bear the brunt. And the major thing that causes inflation, especially within the economy, is transportation. When transport is high, what happens to produce in the market? Everything goes up. So what is the fate of Nigerians at this time? Let's see if we can manage a little time.
Okay, thank you very much. The Israel-Iran crisis is escalating, and and one of the vulnerable places this escalation, would get to, the Gulf of Aden. You have Persian Gulf, which is what we call Strait of Hormuz. You have Northern Power gas field for Qatar. You have Suez Canal. For Suez Canal, if the Suez Canal can be free, if the Somali privates are not going to be blocking it, of course.
You don't capitalize on what is happening.
Exactly, yes. So it means that ship would have to go through Arabian Sea down to the Cape of Good Hope to enter the northern hemisphere. And we'll also see here diversion through Africa into northern hemisphere, because Southeast Asia, also, you talk about Kazakhstan, then into Europe. Those routes,
you see, these travel routes you are talking about, they are longer routes.
They are longer routes,
and then you find out that they will spend more money.
Exactly. So that's the reason why. That's the reason why importation of crude oil will be expensive.
No, importation of refined
PMS, will be expensive, and it will be passed down, to consumers. So that's the
simple analogy. Now,
I
have an issue. I have a question rather to ask. Now, the issue of we having a Dangote refinery, and we have the crude oil here in in Nigeria. We have crude oil in our country. We have Dangote refinery. Shouldn't it be cheaper for Nigerians accessing petrol from Dangote, since he said he has enough to service the country?
Yes, when you look at it, you would see that even Dangote's official price has gone up to like about, I think, by about 50 naira or
51 naira.
51 naira. So this is to tell you the impact of the Israel-Iran crisis, is going to even impact on a local refinery that we have at home.
How?
Because number one, crude oil, is benchmarked against international price.
Okay.
Sure, you understand? It's not sold in naira. So Dangote is working within that
international best practice.
Yes, international best practices. But now you would have seen that he has come up with a policy now that will make PMS, where we have much supply, and it will also bring down the prices. So it's like we are achieving the petroleum equalization policy that Yakubu Gowon wanted to achieve back then in the 70s. Unfortunately, it aligns with what the Petroleum Industry Act is actually, saying. So Dangote now has imported 4,000 CNG trucks, whereby it can deliver PMS to the doorstep of almost every filling stations in Nigeria. So it means that we would be able to calculate the total amount of PMS that we consume in a day. What MPDRA has not been able to achieve all these years. So it will give us an idea of, okay, we are consuming so number of X thousand liters of petrol in a day in Nigeria. So if there will be any difference, it means NNPC will be importing that difference. If Dangote cannot actually cater for the total liters that we are consuming every day, and if he can service the total consumption of PMS in Nigeria, then it means that we need to put a stop to importation of PMS. Then we'll use our hard-earned forex, to better use, which will also help our exchange rates in the long run. So it's a game changer. But right now, when you look at the price of crude oil in international market, I think it has gone on from $63 to $74 now, about 4% increase. Of course, that's going to, increase our national revenue.
Do you see it increasing again?
No. It's going to increase our national revenue.
No, I mean the price of crude in the international market. Do you see it soaring again?
Yeah, I see it soaring. Most especially if Israel eats the major oil-producing field of Iran. Don't forget that Iran is producing about 3.3 million barrels of oil per day, and they are exporting 1.7 million barrels of oil, on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So if Israel eats the major nerve, of the oil and gas field for Iran, so it means that buyers in international markets will look towards other oil-producing nations. So it means that we are bringing Russia back into the mix with their own 10 million barrels per day. Although if Russia is coming in with their own 10 million barrels per day, it's coming to give a buffer so that oil will not go to about $124 per barrel per day. Because I think in 2023, when at the beginning of the Russian-Ukrainian war, there was a point in time where oil was about $124, in the international market. But I see it between $90 to $95 per barrel in the international market. And sorry, let me just quickly add this.
Because of our time,
we need to
go.
It's going to create increased national revenue for Nigeria. But unfortunately, the significant numbers of our barrels of crude oil has been contracted. So it's going to dilute the profits. And you also throw into the mix that we are also not producing at maximum capacity. We are producing 1.5 million barrels of oil. We are not doing 2 million barrels per day. So we will not fully reap the benefits of this Israel and Iran war.
All right, we just have to go now. Thank you, Charles Dolapo and Jory, for being here today. Well, we'll continue this discussion again. Let's keep the conversation going. Just do follow us on all our social media platforms, on YouTube, on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. The handle is at Dominion Broadcast. And on the app X, it is at Dominion Cast. Visit our website at www.dominion.org.ng. My name is Chike Uwogu. Good morning. Thank you for listening.